3 alien sisters were born infertile, buried alive beneath a snowdrift, until a human rescued them. The wind howled across the glacier like a living beast, clawing at the mountains with icy talons. Jacob pulled his scarf tighter around his face as he trudged through knee-deep snow, his snowshoes creaking under the strain. He had come here, to the far edge of the polar wastes on the planet Vela, seeking quiet. He had wanted nothing but solitude after the mining accident that had taken the lives of his crew. But solitude had its price. He carried only a pack of supplies, a heat lamp strapped to his chest, and a radio that rarely caught more than static. Days blurred together in white, frozen silence. Until tonight. A sound, faint, muffled, reached him through the roar of the blizzard. At first he thought it was the groan of shifting ice, or the call of the great snowbirds that sometimes circled overhead. But then he heard it again. A cry. Jacob froze. It was weak, strangled, but unmistakably alive. Someone was out here. He scanned the endless drifts, then spotted a strange mound, half buried under fresh snowfall. The cry came again, louder this time, and Jacob dropped to his knees, digging frantically with gloved hands. His fingers struck something hard, metal, smooth but cracked with frost. A pod. Not human. Alien design, curved lines with faint runes glowing faint blue under the ice. Hold on. Jacob shouted against the storm, not even knowing if the occupants could hear him. He clawed at the seals until one gave way with a hiss of frozen vapor. The hatch fell open, and 3 pairs of glowing eyes stared up at him. They were young women, slender, their skin pale silver like moonlight, their hair long and black as obsidian. Each was weak, trembling, wrapped in tattered robes that had once held heat but now offered nothing. Jacob pulled them out one by one, laying them on the snow. Their lips were blue, their breaths shallow. The oldest looked up at him with hollow eyes. "Why," she rasped, her voice faint. "Why do you save us, human?" "Because you're alive," Jacob said simply, pulling his thermal blanket from his pack and wrapping it around them. He activated his emergency shelter, a quick-deploy tent with a heating core. He carried the sisters inside, layering them together under blankets, then set the heater on full. Only once they began to stir and cough did he allow himself to collapse against the wall. When morning came, the storm had passed. The 3 sisters sat huddled near the heater, their alien features sharp in the pale light. Their eyes glowed faint violet, strange yet beautiful. "I am Serenia," said the eldest. "These are my sisters, Lethra and Calith. We are," she hesitated, exchanging glances with them. "We are the last of our brood." Jacob poured hot broth into cups and handed them over. "You nearly froze to death. What were you doing buried out there?" Calith, the youngest, lowered her gaze. "We were buried on purpose." Jacob frowned. Serenia nodded grimly. "Among our people, those born without fertility are cursed. We cannot bear young. Without children, we have no value to the clans. When this was discovered, they sealed us in a pod and cast us into the storm, as tradition demands." Jacob's gut tightened. "They buried you alive." "It is mercy," Lethra whispered. "So, they believe." Jacob stared at them, struggling with the cruelty of it. To be cast aside simply for being unable to bear children? He clenched his fists. "That's not mercy. That's murder." The sisters exchanged looks again, and Serenia's eyes softened. "And yet you, a human stranger, pulled us from death. Why?" Jacob didn't answer right away. He thought of his crew, miners, rough and rowdy, but family. The accident had stolen them from him, leaving him alone. Saving these sisters had sparked something in his chest he hadn't felt in months. "Because no one deserves to be left to die like that," he finally said. In the days that followed, Jacob shared his shelter, his supplies, and his fire. The sisters, though weakened, began to regain strength. They spoke of their homeworld customs, their exile, and the shame they had carried since birth. Caliph, the youngest, smiled shyly when Jacob offered her dried fruit. "No one ever gave us gifts before," she murmured. "You're not cursed," Jacob said. "You're alive. That's all that matters." But Serenia shook her head. "Among our kind, life without fertility is an emptiness. We were told our blood is useless." Jacob's heart ached. "Then let me tell you something. Back on Earth, I lost people I cared about. People who can't be replaced. You think worth only comes from children? No. Worth comes from who you are, what you choose. And right now you chose to survive." The sisters fell silent, each word striking deeper than the cold ever could. One night, the heater sputtered and died. The storm outside roared louder than before, threatening to rip the shelter apart. Jacob cursed, tearing open the panel. The power cell was fried. "We won't last long without heat," he muttered. Serenia touched his hand. Her skin was cool, but her eyes burned bright. "There is a way. Our bodies can share warmth directly. It is intimate among our kind, but we must do it, or all four of us will perish." Jacob hesitated only a moment before nodding. "Do it." The sisters pressed close, wrapping their arms and bodies around him, a cocoon of silver and black hair. Their strange energy flowed like warmth through his veins. Jacob held them tight, heart pounding, not from desire, but from fierce determination. They would live. That night, none of them slept, but when morning came, the storm had passed, and all four were still breathing. Weeks turned into a fragile routine. Jacob taught the sisters how to ration supplies, how to light fires without fuel, how to shape snow into shelter walls. In return, they taught him old songs from their people, songs they had been forbidden to sing. Their voices blended in haunting harmony, echoing across the ice. "You've given us more than survival," Lethra whispered one evening. "You've given us the chance to feel like we belong." Jacob looked at them, the three who had been condemned as worthless, and felt something stir. Maybe he had rescued them, but maybe they had rescued him, too. The thaw came at last. Snow melted, revealing rocky valleys and trickling rivers. Jacob led the sisters southward, away from the clans that had abandoned them, toward the human outpost on the edge of the wastes. But as they walked, Serenia stopped and looked back at the endless snow. "We were buried to die," she said softly. "Now we walk free. But what place will we find among your kind? We cannot give children. We cannot fulfill the purpose our people demanded." Jacob turned to her, his voice steady. "Then make a new purpose. Live. Laugh. Build. Love. You're not cursed, you're free." The sisters' eyes glistened, tears freezing on their cheeks. When they reached the outpost, the humans stared in wonder at the silver-skinned aliens clinging close to Jacob. Some whispered, some frowned, but Jacob stood tall. "These are Serenia, Lethra, and Caliph," he announced. "They were left to die because their people thought they had no worth. But they're alive, and they're with me." The sisters looked at one another, then at Jacob. For the first time since their birth, hope burned brighter than shame. Together, they stepped into a future no Snowdrift could bury.